Arsenal won, Newcastle nil in the penultimate Premier League game of the season. And we were sat here this time last week talking about Declan Rice, saying how Mikel shouldn't play him again for the rest of the season. It's a good thing he didn't listen to us. He saved the day for Arsenal again. Brilliant strike, I think his ninth goal of the season. So, I mean, just first of all, he came back when we saw the words hamstring injury, we thought, oh God, it's happened again. But then he comes back a week later, starts the game, scores the winner. Where would Arsenal be without Declan Rice?
I really don't know. I mean, the way he stepped up in the last few months, he's basically been carrying the team this second half of the season because he actually didn't start the season that well. I think he had the after effects of the Euros, like a lot of those players did who went deep in that competition. But the second half of the season, he's really found his form again. And he's delivering, like you said, 9 goals, I think 10 assists, 19 goal involvements this season. That's a really, really good return from him, especially as I said on a season where he's not been 100% the whole way through it as well. So I think it's something to really build on. And he was a match winner again at the weekend. It was a lovely goal. Where I was sitting at the Emirates, I was right behind it as well, and you could just see as soon as he hit it, it was absolutely perfect and curled away from Nick Pope, who's massive goalkeeper. So it had to be perfect in that side netting, and it was. And he got the job done for Arsenal. It wasn't pretty. First half, they weren't great at all, but they hung in there. They found a way to win, and that was all that mattered on Sunday. Was just about getting the result.
Certainly was, yeah, quite similar to Liverpool. Proper sort of game of two halves. Of course, Arsenal
Mm.
didn't concede two this weekend, thanks to David Raya pulling off some spectacular saves in that first half. But the fact that, after the Liverpool game, Arteta said he hates reaction, he likes action. What we saw against Newcastle was pretty much what we saw against Liverpool, the reaction in the second half to that quite poor first half display. What we're seeing with these, poor first halves and strong second halves, is this just the fatigue of a long season, or is there maybe something deeper at play there, do you think?
I think so. It's hard though because when if you put it down to fatigue, you'd think it'd be the other way around, wouldn't you? You'd start quickly first half, then run out of steam, and the second half wouldn't be as good. But the reason I think that's why Arteta was so angry against Liverpool was that he believed it wasn't a fatigue thing because how could it be if you go out and perform like that in the second half? I just think everyone's. I'm not sure about it's just physical fatigue. I just think mentally everyone's ready for this season to end. I mean, I was up there for a few hours before the game talking to lots of other Arsenal fans, and it's just that overriding feeling now is everyone's just done with this season really and just wants to get on the beach and kind of put it in the rearview mirror. And I think the players are the same as that. I thought Newcastle were the same, to be honest. I thought it was two very tired teams, just sort of going at it and nowhere near their best in the end. But as I said at the start of it, it was just about the result. Second was on the line. Champions League qualification needed to be secured, and so it didn't really matter how you did it at the end of the day. And Arsenal, let's not forget, have lost 3 times in a row to Newcastle going into this one. So Newcastle were always going to be confident. I think Arsenal were always going to have that sort of scar tissue in the back of their mind from it as well. So yeah, they hung in there in the first half. Like you said, David Raya was superb when he was called upon. He did exactly what he had to do, and that gave Arsenal the sort of foundation in the second half to go on, improve, and ultimately get the goal.
Certainly did, yes. And like you said, Champions League football was secured. That was the overriding goal for the weekend. And of course, Arsenal did their lap of honour. Arteta delivered a speech, quite an impassioned speech to the fans, sort of, urging patience, looking to the future. But you look at what's happened this season. Arne Slot's come in his first season. He's won the Premier League. One of Liverpool, sorry, not Liverpool, one of Man United or Tottenham will win a trophy this season. So of course, Arteta is, urging patience, saying, we will get there, it will happen. But can Arsenal fans be forgiven for maybe running out of patience a little bit?
Yeah, I mean everyone wants to win trophies, but it is hard to win trophies. Especially the trophies. Champions League and Premier League. It's very hard to get over the line for that, and I think it's not been great from Arsenal this season, and it's whenever I even sort of you start saying this, everyone accuses you of excuses, and it's not excuses. I just think this season you have to put it when you're analysing the season. It's only fair that you do put it into context and what's gone on. I think it's been incredibly difficult for Arsenal to win the Premier League this season. I just don't think they had the tools to do it because the injuries have hit them so hard. Yes, you can then point to the recruitment and the lack of it in the summer, especially in January. They didn't do enough to protect themselves then. And so you can certainly point a finger of blame at them for that. But in terms of the squad and the injuries this season, I just think it's very, very hard. But patience is wearing thin. I thought the crowd were very good on Sunday. I was quite interested to see just how many people were going to stick around for the lap of appreciation and what the sort of atmosphere was going to be like when the speeches were being made. Because the last two have been really emotional days. the last two seasons on the final day when Arsenal just missed out. This one, it was a different context, obviously. So I was quite interested to see what it was going to be like. But I thought that the fans in the stadium were really, really supportive. You could see the reaction to Arteta's speech. We saw him the night before at the Union Chapel when he was with the Arseblog and Arsenal Vision crew, and the reception he got there. You know, his popularity is still very, very high with the match-going fan. I think online it's a little bit different, and that's understandable. Everyone's got their own opinion, but I think he's definitely got one more season, and then the pressure will really start to increase if it doesn't happen next season. Because, and he says it himself, it's a problem with raising expectations. You know, at some point when you've raised expectations to the level that Arteta has, you've got to get yourself over the line. And if season after season, you're not able to do that, then the questions are going to have to be raised. But I think he'll ask himself those questions as well if he goes another season without it as well. I think there'll be everyone will sort of sit down and have a sort of long, hard look at things at the end of next season and try and work out why trophies aren't coming if they don't. But look, hopefully that's a moot point. Hopefully Arsenal do get the trophies that I think they deserve. You know, they've been incredibly consistent the last few seasons. Things just have not gone their way at key moments, and some of that's their fault, some of it's misfortune, some of it's injuries, whatever. But they've been incredibly consistent, and they are more than capable of winning major trophies. You know, this squad I think deserves it, and hopefully next season is the season.